the reality is, if you take just a minute and not be condescending, I really believe what she was.
I'm trying to help.
One moment.
Lift her
one
up,
moment.
make her better.
You had your moment. You had your moment.
Let her respond.
The reality is,
that's what's great about
the reality is, Kevin, is
sometimes the most revealing political moments happen during live debates, when tension exposes what people really believe. On the Abby Phillip Show, commentators Anna Navarro and Cari Champion go head-to-head with Kevin O'Leary in a heated exchange. And quickly, the conversation becomes about something bigger: accountability and political double standards. Subscribe for more conversations like this.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is facing a wave of criticism for this foreign policy flub at the Munich Security Conference.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is this is, of course, a very longstanding policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point, and we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
It should come as no surprise, MAGA is having a field day with this one.
Move over Kamala. AOC just cooked up her own signature word salad on the global stage.
She was taking her 2028 bike out for a spin. She hit the embankment. She flipped head over heels and went all the way down the mountain. It's her fault.
After the word salad, AOC froze like a deer in headlights.
To quote Billy Madison, everyone in this room is now dumber because of that answer. Thank you, AOC.
A flub for AOC, but the question is also, what happens when the president, the actual president of the United States, does very similar things on the world stage? Listen.
I watch our police and our firemen down on 7-Eleven, down at the World Trade Center.
When I told them about Iceland, they loved me. Our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland.
Shifting production to Thailand and to Vietnam.
I solved wars that was unsolvable. Azerbaijan and Albania.
Miami has been a haven for those fleeing communist tyranny in South Africa.
Nambia's health system is increasingly self-sufficient. We all know the great Prime Minister of the UK, and we just signed a document. This is, sorry about that. We just signed it, and it's done. And so we have our trade agreement with the European Union.
So, look, I'll give you that AOC probably should have been more ready for that question. But are we going to really pretend that the actual president of the United States has not made similar or perhaps worse flubs on the global stage?
Yeah, I don't think we have to pretend. Everyone makes some flubs. We're all TV personalities. We have mistakes here and there. But it's interesting that you would play 10 consecutive clips of Trump actually saying things. Maybe they may not have been pertinent or taken out of context.
Incorrect
but you played one of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which the whole world is still trying to figure out exactly what she was saying. So, the big buzz now is maybe Kamala, AOC, 2028. I say, bring that on based on that performance right there.
Yeah, listen, stumbling over your words for 15 seconds is not the same as being incoherent or uneducated on foreign policy.
That was incoherent.
She had a ton of amazing answers in that same interview, which we are not playing. We are playing in its entirety, which we do not do for the president. Personally, I was more interested in the thing she said, where she said we're entering an age of authoritarianism, where a group is working in tandem to carve up the world into pieces to serve themselves, and the president is interested in taking on the Western Hemisphere. First of all, that seems kind of true to me, but going to the Munich Security Conference and saying that out loud in the world is kind of ballsy, and I liked it. So a couple of before answering a question on Taiwan.
Not a big deal.
You should go to Queens once in a while before she goes to Munich. That would probably help.
She has gone to Queens a few times, and she doesn't. She's not a foreign policy expert.
Clearly.
And so, no, she's not.
You don't say. Yeah. Come on, give her a break.
You guys, this is
You don't even know who's running in Texas. Okay, so there's a ton of things you don't know. Stop being so condescending.
For 5 seconds, let somebody finish their thoughts before you have to be rude.
I would like to see how you would be able to answer that. Look, I think that it takes a lot of courage, and I think for her to be expanding her message, for her to be expanding her areas of policy interest are a good thing. She is one of 435 members of Congress. There's a lot of them there that don't come with a breadth of foreign policy knowledge.
You're right. She was fabulous.
It's not about her being fabulous. It wasn't.
Say something here.
It wasn't
Let's
about her
say
being
you're hired
fabulous.
to give a speech. Let's say you're hired because you're expected to deliver information to an audience. Let's say you're even paid for it. When you go and do that, what happens is the agency that hired you, whether it's the government, your own party, says that was not your best moment. In fact, they tied you back to Kamala Harris. You were so bad, you sounded like her. And by the way, I'm sorry, it's not a partisan issue. She was terrible. Get over it.
So
now maybe she'll get better.
20 seconds. That was it. And the reality,
are you kidding?
but
the reality is, if you take just a minute and not be condescending, I really believe what she was.
I'm trying to help
one moment. You had your moment. You had your moment.
Let her respond.
The reality is,
that's what's great about
the reality is, Kevin.
Here's what that moment really reveals. At the end of the exchange, Cari Champion calmly tells Kevin O'Leary, "You had your moment." His response? "I always have more moments. That's what's great about me." Take a second. Really think about that. This isn't confidence. This is a performance built on ego and deflection. It's a statement that says, "I'm untouchable. I control the floor. Your critique doesn't matter." And in a panel that's supposed to be about debate and accountability, that kind of attitude speaks volumes. Now, contrast that with how they treat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She pauses, just a few seconds, to gather her thoughts on a complex foreign policy question. And suddenly, she's labeled as incompetent, incoherent, or out of her depth. Yet the same voices who are so eager to mock her rarely critique Donald Trump when he stumbles repeatedly, makes factual errors, or spreads misleading statements on a daily basis. This is projection at its most blatant, a double standard wrapped in moral posturing. They demand perfection from someone who is learning and thinking on her feet, while excusing repeated failures from the most powerful person in the world. That's not just bias. That's a systemic distortion of accountability. Think about what that tells us about the state of political discourse. The loudest voices aren't necessarily the most informed. They're often the ones protecting their preferred narrative, while tearing down anyone who dares to act responsibly. Pausing to think before you speak isn't weakness. It's a fundamental practice of good leadership. And here's the truth we need to hold on to. Democracy doesn't survive on bluster, posturing, or ego. It survives when we demand consistency, integrity, and fairness. When we call out hypocrisy wherever it appears, whether it's on a panel show or in the highest office in the land. Moments like these aren't just entertainment. They are lessons. They show us who respects accountability and who treats politics as a theater of the self.
Is that she was taking a beat, and yes, she wasn't great for less than 20 seconds, if you ask me, but I thought she was doing something that the President of the United States rarely does, and that's think before she speaks.
I don't recall
she was trying to get her words together so she knew how to handle it appropriately.
It's not partisan.
And if people did that, we wouldn't be in this situation that we're in right now.
Abby would tell the producers don't have them on anymore. They wouldn't be on ever again.
Everyone stop talking, please, for just a moment. Stop talking. Thank you. John and Kevin, you all are strongly criticizing AOC for making flubs.
Terrible. That's why.
All right. We just played several bites here, okay? Let me hold on. He stood next to someone from the EU and called them the Prime Minister of the UK, okay? He called South Africa, South America. He called South America, South Africa. He called Greenland, Iceland.
So Namibia, Nambia.
So my question to you is, okay, bad answers. What do you think should happen to Donald Trump as a result of his bad answers?
AOC wants to become the President of the United States. He already is.
Okay, so
he's not worried about running again.
So what are you saying?
She's trying to become
So what are you
president.
saying, that it's okay, no consequences because he's already president?
No, I'm just saying that moment was not her best. And I, above all of the rest of you, I am encouraging her to say, listen, watch the tape. Don't do that again, or you'll be compared to word salad girl in the last election.
What about when Donald Trump, in 2024, said, I think Taiwan should pay us for defense?
Yeah, but I'm sorry, it's
I don't
not
think
working,
that we're
Abby.
any different from
She
an
was
insurance
terrible.
policy. He
Let's focus on
he was
her.
running for president at that time.
Let's lift her
He
up.
says,
Let's
I don't
help
think
her.
we are any different from an insurance policy. Why are we doing this? When he was asked if the United States would defend
But what does that
Taiwan.
have to do with her performance?
even on the
Trump, MAGA's having a field day, and then we make some comments which you were all thinking in your head, and now you're getting mad at us.
I'm sorry, this
having a field day.
This is
We
not
deserve
working
it.
for you.
It was a terrible performance.
John, hey, I'm just asking for you all to apply
I
the
think
same
Trump's hilarious.
standard.
I think he makes mistakes
to
all the
the
time, and I
president
crack up
as you
laughing,
do
just
to
like I cracked
AOC.
up at Joe Biden when he made mistakes.
you know-
It happens.
You're not cracking up when the woman's laughing. You're mocking her. You're saying she's
I'm cracking up when I see her because she's not even forming sentences.
Then you're comparing her to the
She's not
other
even forming
strong woman
sentences.
who
She's not
ran.
giving like a
And
wrong
you're
fact
hilarious
or a
when men
wrong
make a
name.
gaffe.
She's
But when
not
women make a
here
gaffe, they're
supporting her.
monsters. It should
Guys,
never be
please,
invited
please.
back.
Thank
You know what one of the differences is, though? When Trump makes these mistakes as president, he's actually reading from things that people, supposedly experts on these issues, have written. AOC was beyond her skis, I think, in a place that is a new horizon for her.
Don't say
Enough,
that.
Kevin. You're so damn
Don't say
repetitive.
that.
Kevin, please stop.
And,
Let her
you know,
finish her thought.
she can't, I mean, Donald Trump can't read a script. She was answering an impromptu question of something that she's not an expert in. And she's there making mistakes and learning from them. Listen, I'm old enough to remember when George W. Bush was running for president and they asked him about the guy running Pakistan. What was his name? And he kept saying, General, because he couldn't remember the guy's name.
An iconic moment in American history.
Yes, I mean,
all right.
and he went on to become president.
All right, next for us, Zoran Mamdani.
Here's the unvarnished truth, the one the MAGA defenders on that panel will never admit. Donald Trump is the most powerful person on the planet. Every word he speaks, every decision he makes affects millions of lives, the global economy, and the stability of our alliances. And yet, on a daily basis, he repeatedly makes factual errors, spreads misinformation, and promotes conspiracy theories. This isn't just occasional gaffes. It's a chronic pattern from the man who is supposed to lead the free world. Now, juxtapose that with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She pauses for a moment to think through a complex foreign policy question. She carefully weighs her words, and immediately, critics leap in to label her as incoherent, unprepared, or incapable. That pause, a hallmark of responsibility, is treated as a flaw. Meanwhile, repeated mistakes by the president are excused, minimized, or even celebrated by the same pundits. Panelists like Kevin O'Leary and the so-called mob boss, John Tobacco, bend themselves into logic pretzels to defend the indefensible. Kevin O'Leary, who isn't even a U.S. citizen, goes on national television repeatedly, pushing narrow talking points and personal attacks, yet positions himself as an authority on competence and leadership. This is projection, pure and simple, attacking the thoughtful while excusing the reckless. The deeper issue here isn't about a single politician or a few seconds of hesitation. It's about the collapse of moral and intellectual consistency in public discourse. Right-wing commentators can target AOC for pausing thoughtfully, while simultaneously defending repeated failures from the president himself, a man who could consult any expert in the world, yet often opts to steamroll over facts instead. This is not analysis. It's performance, a spectacle meant to manipulate perception rather than illuminate truth. Let's be real. Leadership is not about bluster. It's about responsibility, integrity, and the courage to admit limits while engaging thoughtfully. Pausing to consider your answer is not a weakness. It's accountability in action. Ignoring evidence, repeating falsehoods, and putting ego above governance, that's the real threat to democracy. This panel exposes the stark contrast. AOC, pausing, thinking, engaging responsibly. Trump, steamrolling, misinforming, and spreading conspiracy. Kevin O'Leary, pontificating and protecting his ally. John Tobacco, bending logic to defend the indefensible. It's a textbook example of who values integrity and who values spectacle. The lesson is clear. Democracy survives when citizens demand accountability at the highest level, when public figures are held consistently to the truth, and when thoughtful reflection is rewarded rather than mocked. The stakes are too high for anything less. Hold leaders accountable, reward integrity, call out hypocrisy, and never mistake ego for leadership. I'm Evans Insider, and I'll see you in the next discussion.